What's up, legends, and welcome back to another Unmatched First Impressions video. If you're watching this on the day that it came out, it is Slings and Arrows launch day, I guess. I believe this set's been available for pre-order for a while, but if you're at all interested in this set at any point during today or any of these videos, there will be a link to the Restoration Games store page at the very top of this description. I want to thank them again because they sent me an early media copy that allowed me to make this early preview content for you. And they also included me in part of their card reveal season. I got to reveal 4 of the cards, I guess 5 if you include the collaboration I did with Dark Blade and Zero Skater, which was very fun. Go check out their reveals so far as well, because some of us had a lot of fun with them when we weren't just posting them in the Discord saying, here's the card, you know who you are, Zero. But anyways, today is the day that the media embargo video killed the media embargo. So anyways, all the stuff's coming out. This is the first impressions video I'm making for the set. The other ones are going to be out shortly after today. If you're not watching this on May 8th, I believe, all of them are going to be out. So congratulations. Yeah, we're going to talk about my first impressions of each of the new characters, talk about some of their cards, and what I think of them overall. And this is a really fun exercise because without extensive playtesting or anything like that, we really don't know how good any of these characters are going to be. And I've been horribly wrong about certain characters in the past, like T-Rex and Squirrel Girl. So it's just very fun to look back and kind of see what I was right about and what I was wrong about. This is the first 4-pack I've done a first impressions for since Battle of Legends Volume 2. It skipped over Tales to Amaze and Sun's Origins for their most recent first impressions, just because I got Tales to Amaze when everyone else did, and my early preview copy of Sun's Origins was lost to time and space, so I was very late making those videos. But anyways, let's get into Shakespeare, because it's been almost 3 minutes, and I'm really trying to keep these under like a tight 20. It's probably going to be closer to 40, but this is just first impressions, so it shouldn't be too much. Shakespeare's ability. Well, first of all, Shakespeare is a melee character with 13 health. Ew. I went ew when I did that, but you couldn't see because the card was in the way, which is not a lot. Move 2, double melee, because he has a bunch of actors, which are just 3 1-health sidekicks, which leaves a lot to be desired, but his ability does not. It is Iambic Pentameter. After you attack or defend, add your card to the line. So this is whether you're attacking or defending with William Shakespeare. Notice it does not say scheme, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And it also says when your line has 10 or more syllables, discard your line. If there are exactly 10 syllables, resolve the completion effect on the last card. So this is a really neat effect where basically your card names actually matter. The syllables in them matter. You're creating mini lines of a poem that are 10 syllables or more, and there's a check when there are at least 10 syllables in the line. And when that check happens, if there are exactly 10 syllables, you'll get the completion effect on the last card in the line. If there are more than 10 syllables, you get rid of them all with no effect. And basically you're going to want to try to line up 10 syllables every single time, unless it would lose you the game or something like that. This effect / ability is very reminiscent of Little Red's Basket, and it is equally as powerful and unforgiving when you can't get it to line up. Just in case you're curious, here's the rule book. If you want to pause the video and just read what it says about that, notice that it says if your line has exactly 10 syllables, you have to read the line out loud. This will be enforced in tournaments, and you will get an automatic loss if you do not read out your line every single time you resolve it. This is your moment in the spotlight, so really, really ham it up. Yes, and the completion effects are these like blue feather symbols at the very bottom of the card. The syllables will be noticed in dots based on the words, and also like the symbols on Little Red's cards, there'll be a number there for you. So yeah, I've heard worries from people who do not play the game in English that the translations with the syllables are not going to line up, and I'm sorry if you have to deal with that. I don't have any solutions or better words. I just obviously, if you are able to speak and understand multiple languages, you are much more capable in that sense than like a majority of the US. So hats off to you. I'm sorry we're so stupid. Let's get into the cards. The first couple cards we're going to talk about are actually very reminiscent of Black Widow, Bruce Lee, and Sinbad, because they are a group of cards that are all the same, but have like effects that kind of make them different. Although this is a little bit of an edge case, but we're talking about horror today. So there are 5 different horror cards, and they all have different art, which is very, very cool. Mechanically, they are all the same, so I guess they're a little bit different from Voyages, Missions, and Jeets in that sense, because they're all the same, whereas those other 3 cards I mentioned are not. But it's cool. So this card is groundbreaking for multiple reasons. One, it is the first 5-copy card, which is insane. That means literally 1/6 of your deck is this card. So there's like an added layer of consistency to that, which I love as a math guy. But anyways, horror. I'm gonna be counting the syllables on the cards for this video, but obviously I'm not gonna count that one super slowly for reasons we will not get into. But it's Shakespeare only, 4 value attack, boost value 3, 5 copies. It says during combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each horror card in your line. So this effect reminds me a lot of Muldoon's They Should All Be Destroyed. A base 4 with like a passive increase in during combat is super strong, because if it can easily get to 5 or 6, that's a scary card, especially at a high printed value to punish feints. But it does require you playing other horror cards like sequentially. So your line can contain up to 10 syllables before you have to get rid of it. So if you had all 5 horror cards in your line, the during combat would increase the value for each horror card in your line. When you're playing it, it's not in the line because it's after you attack or defend with the ability. So I guess you could get +4 from the during combat, which would make this an 8. Obviously, that's like you'll get like 1 shot at that because you'll be playing all of your horrors together, and it's super telegraphed. But like you're playing a 4, then a 5, then a 6, then a 7, then an 8 in a row. Of course, that will get messed up if you're blocking at all, but you do have some sidekicks to maybe chump for you, although as a melee character might be a little difficult. But you have some insane damage output with this card, and we're not even done. If we're gonna call back to my Billy Mays card reveal for the Oberon scheme, but wait, there's more. The completion effect on this card is deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter for each other card in your line. So this is damage on top of damage. Remember that the line completion effect only triggers if you have exactly 10 syllables, and syllables come in 2s, 4s, or 6s. So if you have 5 2s in your line, including a horror, the completion effect will deal 4 damage for each other card. So you're potentially playing like like a 5 or a 6 most of the time, maybe even a 4, and dealing like at least 2 auto damage. That's crazy. So whether or not you want to actually like go for the big wombo combo of horror, 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 or just kind of like use horror as like a line finisher consistently throughout the game, remains to be seen. But there is a lot of potential with this card, and it is awesome. Even if it's just like a 4 that deals 2 after combat, that's still something that like your opponent has to respect a lot. The next card is a card I got to reveal. It is My Kingdom for a Horse. My Kingdom for a Horse. Or as I like to say, My Baked Goods for a Cow. It is a printed 5 value attack with no text, with text. Shakespeare only 5 value attack, boost value of 3. 3 copies, which is insane for this card. And it is a 6-syllable card. And it has no effect when you play it the first time, but if it completes your line, you gain 2 actions. So this is another really powerful effect, because we've seen how like Master of the Hunt is insane for Yanenga, just like being able to gain actions like Genie, Bloody Mary, if Bloody Mary was a little bit better, but like getting extra actions is perfect for like more aggressive or more like tempo oriented fighters, because just being able to do more on your turn before your opponent has an opportunity to respond can be very overwhelming for certain fighters. And so a big card, 5 value, printed 5, with an uncancelable gain 2 actions if it finishes your line, is nuts. And I like to think of the line syllables kind of as like poker ranges. When you're at just 2, if you like just play a horror first, there's like a couple different things you could play next. And once you're at 4 syllables, that's when your opponent is going to start like narrowing down what you're going to play. It is really easy to play this card, because you can just play like a card that has 4 syllables on it, and now this card is like online as a line finisher on your next turn. So I can see some like turn sequences where it's like you play a 4 value syllable as a block, open with this attack, and now suddenly you have 3 actions left, and you played a 5 for free essentially. Nuts. You have 3 copies of it. It's going to be a really good card, especially in kind of like a combo finisher type way, because if you can just like chain these on the same turn. I believe someone said in the comment section of the reveal video that you could do like 8 actions in one turn. I don't know if we're ever going to see that in practice, but like even just like having a bunch of 3 or 4 action turns in a row, it seems like a really solid like mid-game option to threaten lethal on your opponent in a few turns. Pressure, let's go. The next card is Once More Unto the Breach, a 6-syllable Shakespeare versatile, boost value of 2, 2 copies. It says, after combat, return a defeated actor to any space in Shakespeare's zone. So this is typical like sidekick recursion. You just have 3 1-health sidekicks, and if you use this card like normal, which will probably be used on a defense, so the effect doesn't get canceled, you can get 2 actors back with each of the copies, but the line completion effect is return all defeated actors to spaces in Shakespeare's zone. So more reminiscent of like a call for backup. We've seen how 1-health sidekicks, when you're able to spam them on the board, can be super annoying, especially for opposing melee characters. And as someone with not a lot of health, you're going to rely on these for chump blocking a lot, which is going to be important. And I've noticed in my games against Shakespeare, I found the actors really annoying because I didn't really want to commit a bunch of resources into them, especially because they have like some decently good cards, and especially in a lot of the inbox matchups, especially with Hamlet and Titania, recurring a bunch of actors can be really annoying for your opponent. as Shakespeare. So I foresee this card being like a really solid utility card that in some matchups will make you feel very oppressive. The next one is very simple. It's a 2-value Shakespeare Versatile, boost value of 2 copies, The Ides of March. 4 syllables, and it is a blank 2 by itself. Let's get close up. Which is ass. But the completion effect is deal 2 damage to any opposing fighter. Let's get a close up. Which is great. So obviously I have like conflicting feelings about this card because by itself, not really good. You can kind of use it as like a bait attack, I would say, as like a line finisher. Although because it's 4 and not 6, your opponent knows it's not going to be Kingdom for a Horse, so they're probably not going to value block too much. Although I see a world where maybe you play like 2 horrors and you're sitting on 6 with like another card in there. And then maybe you throw this as kind of like a surprise gotcha when they like really value block for like the 6 value horror that's coming up or something like that. But being able to effectively misdirection effect from Houdini, just 2 damage ping to any opposing fighter, is nuts. So I definitely think this card is going to be, even though there's only 2 copies, like that's still a decent amount of damage. And then combined with like the horror auto damage and the bunch of 5s you have, it'll start adding up really quickly. And I just think in some matchups where you can afford to play this on defense, that's going to be really, really bad for your opponent. And the last Shakespeare Versatile is Alas. It is a 2-value Versatile, boost value of 2 copies, 2 syllables, and it says, after combat, if you lost the combat, Shakespeare recovers 1 health. So kind of, I think Angel has a card with that effect, which just goes to show you how much Angel I play. Although I think Angels is on a 4-value attack. This is on a 2-value Versatile. You are much more likely to lose the combat with this effect. But the completion effect is draw 2 cards, Shakespeare recovers 2 health, which I believe happens in addition to the after combat effect. So if this is the last card in your line and you lose the combat, you'll get 1 health, and then when it goes into your line, completion, you'll get 2 more. So recovering 3 health is nothing to scoff at. And with your endless amounts of extras you can throw at the opponent, I could see Shakespeare being slightly more tankier than he appears, but still like, this is like a 2-value Versatile that if you're like blocking with, you're still probably going to take some damage over the top. But if you are able to lose the combat, it is effectively like a 5-value block with the healing. And drawing 2 cards is amazing because I foresee card draw as this character's main weakness of how he can stall out and not sequence syllables properly. So this completion effect is decent. It's kind of like more of like a supporty comeback mechanic, I think, where like all the auto damage action gain is like win more. But we're already at 19 minutes. Let's keep going. Yeah, decent card, cool art. The first actor card is a 4-value Versatile, Such Sweet Sorrow. 4 syllables, boost value of 2 copies. It says, after combat, move your fighter up to 2 spaces. Actors, I see this card kind of like Exploit from Dracula's deck, where it's like a 4-value block for a 1 health sidekick, which kind of like makes your opponent have to kind of throw something good into them. And also like you can very quickly turn that around and then attack with a 4 if your opponent isn't pressuring your sidekicks as much, which is a great punish. The after combat effect, kind of like a self-guaranteed skirmish effect, always good. And the line completion is draw 1 card, which I see as kind of like a consolation prize. It's like, you didn't get like a good effect to line up, so drawing a card is sure. Here's a free cookie. Go go cry in the corner. Yeah, it's going to be a solid card. The next actor card is Again. Trying to think of who that looks like. I can't quite remember, but once I do, I'll say it. Anyways, actor card. Versatile 3. 2 copies. Boost value of 2, 3 copies. And it says, after combat, you may return the first card in your line to your hand before you add this to your line. So this can kind of help you reshuffle or resequence things if you play them slightly out of order. I see it as like a great recovery mechanic, like maybe your opponent is pressuring you a little too much and you had to play like once more into the breach like early as like your first 6 syllables of your line to block. You can play again, get it back, and then maybe try to squeeze something else in so that you can get the completion effect of the card that you were forced to play early. Or simply like some cards just have like decent effects on them. You can just get them back to play again. So like extra little health gain, extra actor recursion, extra horror attack. So I see this as a really flexible card. The completion effect is draw 1 card. Again, consolation prize, but this is kind of like a very specific battle hardened. But all recursion is fantastic. It's kind of like pseudo card draw in a way. So again, really good. Really solid actor cards so far. The first any attack is all are punished. That one was the one where I was like, punished? I don't know. It's, I think, the D like cut off. But I guess that's not a syllable, so English. It is a 4 value any attack, 4 syllables, boost value of 2, and 2 copies. And it says, after combat, deal 1 damage to each other fighter in your zone. So just when you thought there couldn't be any more auto damage. But wait, there's more. 1 damage ping effects, kind of like a mini lightning storm, are great. It helps you clear your opponent's 1 health sidekicks, and just that's a great attack value with even more auto damage. Phenomenal. Great line setter upper at a 4 value syllable that you don't really want to be the finishing move, right? Because the draw 1 card, compared to something like this, but like that's already like a really great turn sequences. All are punished into My Kingdom for a Horse. You still have 2 actions. You attacked with a 4 that dealt 1 after combat and a 5 for free, essentially. Now you have like a whole other 2 actions, a whole other turn basically, for 2 cards. So yeah, scary stuff. And actors can use this card too. And the next one is places. 4 syllables, 3 value any, boost value of 1, 2 copies, outstanding art, super underrated here. After combat, move each actor up to 3 spaces, kind of like the Squirrel Girl card that does the same thing with squirrels, except actors are better than squirrels, so this is much better. And the completion effect is very unique. Place Shakespeare in a zone with no actors. So this kind of seems like a very situational completion effect, although the after combat effect on the normal card, just like sidekick moving around, if you have like even like 2 actors on the board, that's like a decent amount of like surprise setup you can do. Kind of like I see like the 4 syllable attacks kind of like all are punished as kind of like setup cards, to kind of like immediately build card wealth, card syllables in your line so that you can threaten something, kind of like that poker range thing I was talking about. Your opponent is now has to like prepare for Kingdom for a Horse or something like that, because I think you are very dangerous when you're at 4 or 6 syllables, because then you have like the most options you can do, and your opponent like can't really narrow it down. When you're at 8 syllables, your opponent probably will assume that you're trying to play optimally and play a 2-syllable card and can kind of narrow it down, because right now there's only 3 2-syllable cards. So that makes it easier versus like when you're at 6 or 4 syllables, there's like a little bit more you can do because you could either play a 2 or you could play a 4 or a 6 math. And so I really like the 4 syllable cards because they immediately threaten one of the like the big Sixers from Philadelphia as like the next completion effect. Yeah. We have Et tu Brute. Finally, those 8 years of Latin paying off. Amazing card art. Let's go Fractals. It is a 3 value, any versatile, boost value of 3, 2 copies. During combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each of your fighters adjacent to the opposing fighter. So this is like Infinite Strikes from Wukong, except I believe Infinite Strikes says each other friendly fighter, where this says each of your friendly fighters. So if you are attacking with this card, it will be a 4 baseline because you're melee, so the opponent will be adjacent to you. Unless you're using like a map or something from Hell's Kitchen or some other like ranged attack shenanigans. Or if you're defending against a melee attack, it'll be a base value 4. Super solid, especially for kind of like low starting HP character. And of course, if you surround your opponent, maybe with places, something like that, this could be up to a 7, which is really scary range. And the completion effect is place each of your fighters in any space. So I think there's definitely potential to kind of go like for an all-in kind of like big attack where you're at 6 syllables, you surround the opponent, attack them with this, which is going to be a 7. You got all 3 of the actors and Shakespeare. And then you hit them big, and then you complete the line. You get to move them all away, which is perfect. Of course, it still kind of plays into things like Wily, and your opponent can be in like a corridor, so you can only get 2. But really decent card just as like a 4 value block against melee, against range. Slightly less utility, but they often hit slightly less hard, so that probably makes up for it. And the completion effect, I think, is really good for what this card does. You might not want to go for it every single game, but super solid. And next we have Deceive. Oh, Devious. Deceive. Kind of like someone mispronouncing the capital of the U.S. It is a 2 value, versatile any. Boost value of 1, 2 syllables, 3 copies. Immediately. Cancel all effects on your opponent's card. Where have we seen this before? Completion effect. Return this card to your hand, which is absolutely brutal. It is a feint that you can get back. I think defensively, if you can line that up as the end of your line, that's super solid. With the again, you can play Deceive first, play again, get the Deceive back, finish the line with Deceive, get it back. That's 2 free feints. That's going to be a nightmare for certain fighters to deal with, but you can only recur it if it's the first or the last card specifically, which I appreciate that you there's a limit to it, because getting multiple feints we've seen from fighters like Achilles or Daredevil, Winter Soldier even, can be brutal for certain matchups. And the last card, my favorite card from this deck, wonder why? Revise. It is a 1 value versatile any, 2 syllables, boost value of 2, 2 copies. After combat, draw 1 card. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards instead. Move each of your fighters up to 2 spaces. Move each fighter up to 2 spaces. This includes opposing fighters. So obviously that can be a very surprising game effect, and you only have 2 of them, but it's still regroup. So yeah, I appreciate that. I begged Suzanne to let me reveal this card, but it's okay because I got to reveal Hamlet's outrageous regroup instead on the screen now in all its glory, which was definitely worth it. So overall, what do I think about this character? I think he is going to be a headache to learn to play as and against. Just because, like Little Red, you gotta line up the symbols, except this is a little bit more complicated because with Little Red, it's like, all right, I need a knife in the basket. I'll wait until I have a knife in the basket. Whereas this is like, you have to plan out and sequence cards, maybe think about the line you're going to make after the current line, manage your cards in your hand, because blocking or defending with any character will add it to the line. So it's a little bit more in depth than like the Sister's Cauldron. It's a little bit more thinking, but I believe the thinking is greatly rewarded with some of these bonkers effects and all the auto damage you're able to do. The amount of like free value you can get from some of your completion effects is insane. And like worst case scenario, you're drawing a card, which like passively is fine. Obviously, if you're doing the non-draw a card effects, I believe you're going to be in a better spot. But even getting something for every single card being a finisher potentially is a nice little touch. And I think in the right hands, this character will be A tier. I believe he's that good. Getting there, though, is going to take a lot of patience and a lot of practice. And playing against him, too, is going to kind of be the same way. The first time I played against Shakespeare, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to try to remember what your cards do or what syllables line up where. I'm just going to try to play my best game against you and see if that works out. And it did that game, but definitely wouldn't expect that every single time. Memorizing these cards is also going to be a little bit difficult since they all have multiple effects, essentially. And you have to remember how many syllables it has, which is kind of in the name, but like also kind of not, because you actually have to remember the card name instead of being like, oh, the blank 5 Hunter's Eye. It's like, oh, that's actually a 6. That's the name. So yeah, I do think this set is very much not beginner friendly, but it has been 5 years since this game has come out. There are over 50 characters, and this is like the 13th set. So like, does it need to be beginner friendly at this point? I would argue no, and I would say the game is in a better place because they're not necessarily catering all the new sets to beginner players. The Battle of Legends sets definitely should stay as kind of like more introductory sets, but I really like that they are taking risks with like very creative characters like this. And this character is very creative because it was one of the 4 design contest winners from the deck design contest Restoration had in 2020. I did reach out to Jonathan to interview him about his character like I did for some of the other designers. We are still working on scheduling that. Jonathan is a very, very, very busy person. So I do not fault him at all for not being available for this yet. But trust me, as soon as we can get that scheduled, I will have that out ASAP as possible. I was able to interview Jason, the designer of the Sisters, and that video will be out when all of this is out. So yeah, those are my first impressions of Shakespeare. Let me know what you think about this very, very cool character in the comments. Let me know what lines you intend to be building with your master poet skills. And yeah, male pattern baldness is normal. I'm gonna leave you on that positive note because I know my hairline's getting up there as well. All right, just end the video. All right, sub 35 minutes. I'll take it. So yeah, stay tuned for more first impressions from Slings and Arrows. And as always, like, subscribe, and yay!